sure.
तो सबसे पहले लाइक इफ वी स्टार्ट विथ द वैल्यू फैशन सेक्टर विच इज देयर, तो इसमें अभी आपका क्या थीसिस है, एंड देन इसके बाद लाइक इसमें कौन सी कंपनीज है जो आपके हिसाब से चल रही है, एंड व्हाट इज हैपनिंग इन दिस सेक्टर?
Sure, absolutely. Happy to run through the sector. So we have also prepared like a very short presentation on value fashion. So in general, you might have seen that a lot of Gen Z and a lot of younger startup population now is no more attached to old clothes, right? I mean, everyone is changing clothes every year. Maybe average age of a cloth has shrinked, right? जो अपने पेरेंट्स क्लोथ्स यूज करते थे, द यूजफुल लाइफ एंड देयर थॉट प्रोसेस अराउंड हाउ लॉन्ग शुड a cloth run or effectively be used is shortened a lot. Plus we want wide variety, we want fashionable clothes. Obviously I think this is pretty common nowadays. So uski wajah se kya hua hai, there has been an emergence of players who can provide such trendy clothes at very low prices, similar to I think jewelry which we were discussing earlier. Lower ASP products in jewelry as well as in clothes should do well. This is a broad thesis which I think generally people will accept. Obviously there is a certain growth happening in the premium end of things as well. So companies like Rare Rabbit, they have raised private rounds, and various premium other companies have also done well. But this sector caters to 150 crore population of India, right? If you crack this, sky's the limit. I mean, maybe you can look at Zudio, for example. Trent and Tatas have done well in the retail sector. In fact, as per my understanding, Tatas have been the spearhead of retailing in India. First with Titan and then with Zudio. What they've done is phenomenal. No other company was able to repeat that. So obviously I think in this sector there are some companies which have become like 3 lakh crore, 5 lakh crore kind of market cap, which are very, very big companies. But we look at smaller companies which are doing well as well, right? So we can definitely run through the presentation, and in the presentation itself you'll get a lot of idea and about what happens in this sector. So in general, value fashion is something which is cheap value, and it can be broadly categorized into apparel, journal merchandising, and FMCG. Now GM and FMCG is something which we used to buy at Kirana store, right? But why do people go at DMart? People go at DMart क्योंकि किराना स्टोर से भी 30% डिस्काउंट में DMart में मिलता है. So that is why people also go to value fashion destinations to buy clothes, because normally clothes even at value fashion destinations are much closer. Why do people buy at Zudio? Because Zudio provides stylish, trendy clothes at cheaper prices. So that has been like a key thesis of this sector. You'll see that there is a certain amount of growth which is happening. Growth is obviously higher on the tier 1 side, tier 3, tier 4 side of things, which is still untapped, and there is a certain portion which is unorganized. Mom and pop, kapde ki dukane they are actually shrinking, versus these value fashion guys are taking market share from them. So this is what has been a general trend in the industry, right? So this is the macro. But focusing on the micro, focusing on companies who do well in the sector, एक सेटअप करना एक रिटेल स्टोर या एक वैल्यू फैशन एक क्लोथ स्टोर इज प्रीटी इजी, बट टू रन इट इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट, because you want to set up your store near near the people who will come to buy, but near those people it will be a very high rent. Plus you want to run that store very efficiently, and hence you will see that sales per square feet kind of becomes a benchmark in this sector. Whoever is performing well should do a certain threshold of sales per square feet and footfalls. That should also translate into good same store sales growth. But a lot of other things are also important. So आप ऐसे समझिए कि रिटेल स्टोर को स्टार्ट करना तो इजी है, बट उसको रन करना एफिशिएंटली बहुत डिफिकल्ट है. दैट इज व्हाई वी हैव सीन सो मेनी बैंक्रप्सीज इन द स्पेस. You might know about Future Group, right? What happened? We'll come to that story in a bit also. There are some other large retail players who have gone bankrupt, not just in India, in the US as well. So my underlying thesis is sector में entry बहुत easy है. There are very low barriers of entry. Yet in India, there are very few players who are scaled. Whom you can think of in retail? Tata's, Reliance Retail, and DMart. Maybe Vishal Megamart, which is a purely PE funded company. There are no large outcomes from this sector, despite this sector is so easy to, the entry barriers are literally nothing in this sector. Despite uske bhi, people are not able to crack the sector because they fundamentally are not able to run a store efficiently. एक स्टोर को एफिशिएंटली रन करने के लिए आपको पर स्क्वायर फीट सेल्स देखनी पड़ेगी, आपको अपनी कॉस्ट्स को ऑप्टिमाइज करना पड़ेगा. यू विल हैव टू मेक श्योर दैट यू ग्रो ईच ईयर, योर सेम स्टोर सेल्स ग्रोथ हैपेंस ईच ईयर. यू विल हैव टू ऑप्टिमाइज योर सप्लाई चेन. आपको वेंडर्स से बहुत सस्ते में खरीदना पड़ेगा, आपको वर्किंग कैपिटल को मैनेज करना पड़ेगा. सो देयर आर लॉट ऑफ वेरिएबल्स, and if you want to expand, like once you become listed, analysts will ask you, how will you increase margins? You will have to introduce private label. Now Zudio is 100% private label, right? So private label nahi hoga jab tak you will sell a third party's products, they will not give you margins. So hence, to scale a retail company, these are broadly, 5 big parameters, which are, people are rarely doing this correctly. And hence, we are looking at this space. Despite very low barriers of entry, यहाँ पे ज़्यादा अच्छे ज़्यादा बड़े outcomes आए ही नहीं हैं. So that is why we have been looking, at a company called V2 Retail. V2 Retail is basically run by Mr. Ramchandra Agarwal. Now, interesting fun fact about this guy: this gentleman started his career with a 300 rupees salary in Calcutta. He came from a literally nowhere background, from a very, very humble background. He actually started Vishal Megamart, which is today a 1 lakh crore, I think 70-80,000 crore market cap company. But he was not able to run it efficiently. He had to sold that company at 70 crore rupees in 2008-2009 crisis. And from 78 crore rupees, the PE guys came in the company. PE guys scaled it up from 70 crores to 70,000 crore market cap. So that is like a 1000x return for those PE guys in, let's say, 15 years.
Wow.
So Ramchandra ji started Vishal Megamart. Vishal Megamart is what you see today. But he had to sell this business midway because of various reasons, because of financial crisis, which he was seeing. तो ये भी ना वही सब गलतियां कर रहे थे जो बाकी सब लोग करते हैं रिटेल में, कि आपने स्टोर्स एक्सपैंड कर लिए बट पर स्टोर एफिशिएंसी नहीं आई, आपने अपनी सप्लाई चेन को एफिशिएंट नहीं बनाया, इसलिए इनके स्टोर एक्सपेंशन हो गए डेट लेके, स्टोर एक्सपैंड कर लिए, टॉप लाइन बहुत बढ़ गई, बॉटम लाइन कुछ आई नहीं, डेट वालों का रीपेमेंट नहीं हुआ, यू हैड टू फायर सेल द कंपनी. So it's a very thin margin, cutthroat business. You'll have to, compete with the mom and pops of the world, which are, they don't have a cost base, right? They don't have any cost base, and hence, it's very easy to get in, but difficult to execute business. So this has been the history of the promoter. He is differently abled as well, but I think he's done a phenomenal job with V2 Retail. Now, what has he done with V2 Retail? V2 Retail is his next startup after selling Vishal Megamart. So Vishal Megamart, जब इन्होंने बेच दिया 70 crore rupees में, I am sure he would have not earned anything because there were outside investors also. Vishal Megamart पहले listed थी. They listed and raised 2,000 crore rupees in the listed market, but they got bankrupt and sold to PE firm. So they were earlier listed, then got delisted, then these PE firms acquired them and scaled it up, and then relisted the business, which we are seeing today. But he was out of the picture after selling. So he started V2 Retail. So V2 Retail also, in the name, as the name says, it's a adopted version of Vishal Megamart only. So Vishal Megamart में क्या कर रहे थे कि they were selling a lot of things. They were selling FMCG, they were selling general merchandise, as well as they were selling, apparels. They shrinked down the focus only to apparels. So सबसे important चीज तो उन्होंने ये की कि इतने सारे business SKUs, अब apparel business में margins अच्छे होते हैं, and GM and FMCG business में margins कम होते हैं. So I'm guessing that would have been a very key reason of the shift.
GM as in?
GM means general merchandise and FMCG. So वहाँ पे margins are less. Plus विशाल मेगा मार्ट के store sizes बहुत बड़े थे. Due to a very large store size, their sales throughput was very less. So you can see in the numbers, the revenue per square foot was only 5,400 rupees an annum. While in retail, he like literally shrink the store size and he was able to do a much higher throughput of revenue per square foot of the store. Because per square foot, you also incur cost, right? You incur a lot of cost like employee cost, rental cost, miscellaneous expenses. There are a lot of expenses. So you want to become like the best player in revenue per sales, revenue per square foot. If you are the best player, you will be able to, rapidly expand. Now you can look at gross margins as well. Since they were selling 3 different categories in Vishal, they were not making enough gross margin. But now they came to only apparel. They are now making, good. They worked on the working capital cycle as well in V2 retail. So whatever learnings रामचंद्र जी को जो भी learning मिली विशाल मेगा मार्ट से वो उन्होंने V2 में implement करी.
ये वर्किंग कैपिटल साइकिल का क्या मतलब है 174 डेज का इन सिंपल टर्म्स एंड सेकेंडली हाउ डिड दे रिड्यूस फ्रॉम 174 टू 107 हियर?
सो मेनली इसमें क्या हुआ कि वर्किंग कैपिटल क्या होती है पहले मैं ये बताता हूँ. वर्किंग कैपिटल ये होती है कि आपने किसी से यू विल हैव सप्लायर्स, राइट? यू विल नॉट मैन्युफैक्चर ऑल दीस प्रोडक्ट्स. सो आपने किसी सप्लायर से यू टुक गुड्स एंड देन यू टुक सम टाइम टू सेल. वो आपके इन्वेंट्री में पड़े रहे एंड देन यू टुक सम टाइम टू सेल दोज गुड्स. यू रियलाइज्ड कैश and you had to pay to the supplier upfront and you had to store the inventory in your stores. So that is a time period where you had to block your capital. क्योंकि आप कुछ भी store में खरीदोगे जो आपको बेचना है तो वो instantly same day तो it will not sell, right? So it will on an average remain for 175 days out of 365 days a year.
मतलब आधे साल तो वो पड़ा है इन्वेंट्री,
आधे साल इन्वेंट्री पड़ा है. तो ये इनएफिशिएंट मॉडल था बहुत. उसका दूसरा रीजन ये भी था कि पर स्क्वायर फीट सेल्स नहीं थी इतनी. दैट इज व्हाई द इन्वेंट्री वाज हाई एंड सेल्स वाज लो एंड दैट इज व्हाई द वर्किंग कैपिटल वाज आल्सो हाई वर्सेस V2 रिटेल जहां पे दे वर एबल टू शॉर्टन द वर्किंग कैपिटल साइकिल. अब ये शॉर्ट कैसे हुई वर्किंग कैपिटल साइकिल? देयर माइट बी वेरियस रीजंस. First is they might have negotiated with suppliers a lot on, payment terms. Maybe in Vishal, they used to pay earlier versus in V2, they have a slightly longer tenure. Second, I think the sales throughput of the business increased, right? So now they are able to sell roughly double the revenue per square foot. So per square foot, आपके जो clothes हैं store में, you are able to sell them at a much faster clip, right? On a yearly basis, and hence when you are selling more per square foot you will keep less inventory. So mainly आपकी inventories business में कम हो गई which led to shortening of working capital cycle. So these are one of the key reasons why working capital shortened for them is higher throughput of sales which led to much lower inventory days which led to much lower working capital cycle.
एंड इन्होंने अभी नेट डेट इनका 0 है इसमें लिखा है, तो बेसिकली डेट फ्री कंपनी है ये V2 रिटेल.
यस. सो विशाल में जैसे मैंने आपको बताया कि विशाल बैंकरप्ट क्यों हुआ था, क्योंकि उनको हाइपर स्केल करना था बिजनेस को. ही ओपनड लाइक अ लॉट ऑफ स्टोर्स विदाउट मेकिंग ईच स्टोर एफिशिएंट. तो उसकी वजह से डेट बलून हो गया and that was they were not able to handle and they had to fire sell the company. But यहाँ पे V2 में आने के बाद this is one of the fundamental reason the company can stay afloat even in losses, and we'll come in future slides we'll see that company was actually reporting losses in COVID due to lockdowns and all. But even despite posting losses, they were able to sustain themselves and they are now like roughly a 5,500 crore market cap company.
Got it. इसमें V2 retail के competitors कौन-कौन हो गए आज?
So V2 retail currently is competing with there's a company called V-Mart. There is also a company called Style Bazaar. But in the unlisted space, I know at least 5 more competitors like City Cart. And Shubham Kmart. There are a lot of companies actually.
और ये आपने बताया ये apparel पे focus कर रहे हैं, right?
ये apparel पे focus कर रहे हैं.
तो Zudio इनका competitor नहीं होगा क्या?
Zudio तो actually मैं बताऊं इस industry का grandfather है.
हाँ.
Right? Zudio से तो इनको I think you can compare it, but Zudio is doing a per store sales of 20,000 rupees. They are at 10,000. So Zudio is, like the big daddy of the industry. Obviously, Zudio is a big competitor for them.
But same industry, right? इनका ये.
Same industry. Zudio is situated in slightly more urban areas. Versus for them, their stores are located in a much rural or semi-urban areas. So in those situations, Zudio pays a much higher rent, but is also doing a much higher revenue per square foot.
So let's say if I'm a retail investor, so like you have to help me understand why do you say this is your top pick and not let's say a Zudio?
Sure. Again, as I mentioned, this is again looking internally of what happens. So this is why the efficiency matters. Before we move to peer section, I'll just take another minute. एक रिटेल बिजनेस क्या होता है? इट्स लार्जली अ फिक्स्ड कॉस्ट मॉडल. एक रिटेल की शॉप कैसी होती है? उसके रेंटल्स फिक्स्ड होते हैं, उसके एम्प्लॉय कॉस्ट फिक्स्ड होते हैं, उसका इलेक्ट्रिसिटी का बिल फिक्स्ड होता है, उसके मिसलेनियस फिक्स्ड होते हैं. एज यू स्केल अप योर रेवेन्यू पर स्क्वायर फुट, you will be able to generate a higher EBITDA number. So in this chart, you will see that this is, a comparison of V2 only, but this can be largely applied to all the value fashion or in general, the retail sector in general. From the same store, if you are able to do different levels of revenue per square foot, so जब भी कोई नया store खोलता है, तो उसका revenue कम होता है. Revenue per square foot is lesser versus कोई किसी का store mature हो जाता है. तो जैसे जैसे if you are able to move from 6,000 rupees revenue per square foot, this is annual number, to 15,000 rupees, your EBITDA margins or store level ROCE will go from negative 9% to positive 80%. Because आप देखोगे तो employee cost same है, rental same है, others same है. So your costs are largely same. But if you are able to efficiently run the store and efficiently take out maximum revenue per square foot from the store, you will be able to do decent store level ROCs, decent store level, profits, which will ultimately translate to your, company level profits. So that has been one of the important factors to analyze any retail business in India.
Okay. So the optimum basically metric is revenue per square feet. इसको कैसे बढ़ा सकते हैं?
बिल्कुल.
Ultimately उससे ही store level ROC increase हो गया.
ऐसा बोलते हैं ना कुछ लोग कि if you really want to grow, you should focus internally rather than focusing externally.
Correct.
Retail business में this is the most apt saying. If you really focus on the store efficiency, that is what you need to do. That is a very simple thought process, but very difficult to do. अभी same store से पर स्क्वायर फीट कैसे सेल ज्यादा लाएं, यही तो मेन बात है.
कैसे वो उसका क्या सीक्रेट होता है, वो कैसे करते हैं?
उसके बहुत सारे सीक्रेट्स होते हैं. आई विश आई न्यू ऑल द सीक्रेट्स. आई वुड हैव बीन अ एंटरप्रेन्योर, बट एज अ इन्वेस्टर, you always want companies to try a lot of things to increase this number.
इन्होंने कैसे किया होगा V2 रिटेल ने?
So V2 रिटेल
आपने बताया कि एक SKU पे फोकस किया, अपैरल पे.
एक SKU पे फोकस करा, अपैरल पे. नाउ अपैरल, द वे यू डिजाइन योर स्टोर इज ऑल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. आपने देखा होगा Zudio में, सपोज इट्स अ 3 floor Zudio. सो ग्राउंड फ्लोर पे नॉर्मली किसकी शॉपिंग होती है, फीमेल्स की या मेल्स की? फीमेल्स की. क्यों?
ज्यादा,
क्योंकि फुटफॉल्स बढ़ते हैं. फीमेल्स की वजह से मेल भी अंदर आते हैं. राइट. I mean, females के साथ जो उनके husbands हैं, whatever. So these are some of the very hidden strategies which these retailers use to increase footfalls. Right? This is like one of them. Placing, correct items at correct places. Let's say you will never buy like a perfume from Zudio, but they are placed at the counters, payment counters. So people randomly pick, this is like 100 rupee perfume. You would not think twice, right? So placement of articles is one of the most important things. Second important thing is your DC, which is your, warehouse. In case of V2, they have an in-house warehouse where store के पीछे ये लोग एक warehouse बना के रखते हैं. This is not like a very, I would say, replicable strategy here, but I don't know why a lot of retailers are not doing this, but due to that you can replenish your store articles very quickly versus others. दूसरों के साथ क्या होता है, there's a weekly replenishment, sometimes hot selling articles or clothes, they sell very fast, and whoever the new customer is coming, he will not be able to get it. It's a double edged sword. ज्यादा इन्वेंट्री भी नहीं रख सकते क्योंकि आप इन्वेंट्री कॉस्ट ज्यादा दोगे, एंड कम इन्वेंट्री भी नहीं रख सकते क्योंकि फिर कस्टमर डिससेटिस्फाई होके चला जाएगा, फिर वो किसी और दुकान के पास चला जाएगा, राइट? सो इट्स अ वेरी strategic decision. As an investor, what I can say is the ultimate outcome of all these strategy is the numbers which they are reporting. If someone is reporting a very high sales per square foot, it means they are doing something right.